I like Hey guys, this is Justin Coffin. We are live downtown at Youngstown Studio in downtown Youngstown, Ohio. This is the 330 Sports Show. We are going to do a little preliminary draft night special. We are going to talk all things NFL draft, so feel free to chime in on the comments. We will love some interaction with you guys. It is about 7:05 or about an hour before the draft kicks off. And we're just going to have some fun with this. So we're going to talk, we're going to go a little bit over what I think is going to happen tonight. We're going to talk about some of the position groups, some of the most important key things. We'll talk, obviously, we are in Youngstown, right in the middle of Cleveland and Pittsburgh. We'll talk a little Cleveland Browns, little Pittsburgh Steelers, what they are looking at. Obviously, the Browns without a first-round pick tonight. They do pick number 44 overall. The Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20. We'll talk about what they might do. The Cincinnati Bengals pick at 31, and the Baltimore Ravens, the other AFC North team, pick at 14. So we'll talk about all those teams, different draft needs, and whatnot, and we'll have a little fun with it. So it is Thursday, April 28th, 2022. So let's have some fun with this, and let's just talk a little bit about the NFL draft. So I'm going to go over with you my latest edition of the mock draft that I did last night, put it together, shared it out. Now, I did make one glaring error. I omitted Derek Stingley Jr., which he will most likely be a top 12 pick tonight. And I did that for a good reason. I had him going 4th overall, and then I pulled it back and then just didn't put him back in. But let me just put this on record. I think Derek Stingley Jr. from LSU, the corner, will go somewhere between the 8 and the 12 spot. But I'm going to just give you the kind of the breakdown of my overall mock and what I did last night. So in this draft, I have 17 offensive players going in the first round. I have 15 defensive players going in the first round. So the most positions I have getting drafted in the first round, I have 7 wide receivers coming off the board. I'll talk to you about that and who in a minute. The rest of the offensive positioning, I have 4 offensive tackles coming off the board, 3 interior offensive linemen, so either guards or centers coming off the board. I have 3 quarterbacks coming off the board, but you might be surprised where I have them going. And I have 0 tight ends or running backs coming off the board in the first round of the NFL draft. That leads us to the defensive side of the ball. So 15 defensive players. I have 5 defensive ends coming off the board, 4 cornerbacks, 2 defensive tackles, 2 linebackers, and 2 safeties coming off the board in the first 32 picks. Another little breakdown here. I have 4 players from Georgia getting drafted in the first round. I have 2 Alabama players, 2 Ohio State Buckeye players, and 2 Michigan players coming off the board in the first round. And by conference, I have 11 players from the SEC coming off the board in the first round. I have 7 Big Ten players coming off the board in the first round. I have 5 ACC players coming off the board, but a bunch of those guys early on. And then I have 4 Pac-12 guys coming off the board. So let's get into some of that. And I'm also going to give you some of my favorite prop bets of the evening, some over-unders, some totals, who I think is going to come off the board first. So with that said, let's take a look at, let's just start with what I think is going to happen overall in the first round, and then we'll revisit some of those prop bets. So I think, I don't know if I would make this pick, but I think the first overall pick for the Jacksonville Jaguars is going to be Trayvon Walker, the defensive end out of Georgia. Now, if it were me, I might take the defensive end out of Michigan, Aidan Hutchinson, as a more safer pick. But Trayvon Walker did not have as many sacks in his career as Aidan Hutchinson did all of last season. So that is a little eye-opening. However, Georgia is just so loaded on the defensive end that you're going to see a ton of Georgia guys come off the board in the first round, maybe even into the second round. So we'll see how that all plays out. With the second pick, I have Aidan Hutchinson, the defensive end out of Michigan, who unfortunately terrorized our Buckeyes the last weekend of November there up at the Big House. I have him coming off the board second. I think the Detroit Lions would run to the podium and take him if he is available. So I'm going to go Trayvon Walker 1, Aidan Hutchinson 2. And I'm going to keep that trend going with another defensive end, Kayvon Thibodeau. I have him coming off third at third overall to the Houston Texans. Now, this is a guy that possibly could slide down the draft board depending on, if a team loves him or, doesn't like him. We'll just see. We'll see what Houston wants to do with that third overall pick. I have Ahmad Sauce Gardner, the first corner coming off the board at number 4 to the New York Jets. I have Ike Ekwonu, the offensive tackle from North Carolina State, coming off the board 5th. I have Evan Neal, the tackle out of Alabama, who honestly could be the best player in this draft. I have him coming off the board at number 6 to Carolina. And I'm going to stop right there because Carolina, to me, is the most intriguing team in this draft. They are the wild card. They are, we will see. Now, the owner of the Carolina Panthers has some ties to the University of Pittsburgh. Who is in this draft from the University of Pittsburgh? Kenny Pickett. Will Matt Rule, who is kind of a coach, and could he stick around, or will he be around next year in Carolina? That's a big question mark. So I'm sure Matt Rule would like to take a quarterback at number 6, but will the GM override that? Most likely, and they're going to go with the best player available. So I think Evan Neal comes off the board there. I think this pick is just so intriguing for so many reasons, because if Kenny Pickett gets picked, or Malik Willis, or those are probably the 2 that would come off the board. Matt Corral could be another name. But in my opinion, I think Matt Corral comes off the board first. And I'll explain why in a little bit. But, it's going to be a very, very interesting draft. And to me, the draft and the major questions start at that number 6 pick with the Carolina Panthers. So we'll see what Carolina does with that pick. I have Evan Neal going there. The next pick, I have another defensive end for the New York Giants, Jermaine Johnson from Florida State, a former Georgia Bulldog who transferred to Florida State this past season, was the ACC Player of the Year, and should go in the top 10. And I have them going number 7 overall to the New York Giants. So the New York Giants have the 5th and the 7th pick, and I have them taking an offensive lineman and a defensive lineman, kind of to solidify the strength of that team. At number 8, we're going to have our first Ohio State Buckeye, in my opinion, coming off the board, Garrett Wilson. I like him to go to the Atlanta Falcons for several reasons. One, they're wide receiver needy. Calvin Ridley, who you might have heard of getting suspended earlier in the year for gambling. That's a whole nother issue, but he will not be on the team this year. And they are a team that really, really needs some skill. They've lost Julio Jones. They now have no Calvin Ridley. And kind of a lot of no names down there in Atlanta. So Garrett Wilson would help and probably be that number 1 receiver right away with the Atlanta Falcons. Now, Atlanta traded Matt Ryan in the offseason to the Indianapolis Colts. So they are without a legit quarterback. They do have Marcus Mariota, who was the backup in Vegas the last couple of years. So we'll see what they end up doing. But I think these teams in the first, top 10 or first half of the NFL draft are not reaching for quarterbacks. So I like Garrett Wilson going at number 8. I like Kyle Hamilton, the safety out of Notre Dame, going to the Seattle Seahawks at number 9. I have a second wide receiver coming off the board at number 10 to the New York Jets, Drake London. So in the top 10, you have both New York teams. You have the Giants picking 5 and 7, and you have the Jets picking at 4 and 10. And both of those teams, I have them taking 1 defender and 1 offensive player. So the Jets, I got taking the best corner and in some people's mind, the best receiver, but in my mind, the second best receiver, Drake London, the wide receiver out of USC. He's a big, tall dude. He's physical. He's kind of that red zone target. They took the quarterback last year out of BYU, and we'll see if they can get Zach Wilson a weapon. He is Drake London. Speaking of him, was a former basketball player at the University of Southern Cal, and we'll see. To me, I think he comes off the board as the second receiver and 10 overall. All right, so let's go through 11 through 20 a little bit quicker, because I do want to talk a little bit about the Pittsburgh Steelers and what they plan to do and what I think they could do. So 11, you got the Washington. I still like the Washington football team. I really do. But Commanders, it's going to be weird, kind of like the Guardians, to get used to that. But I like Devin Lloyd, the linebacker out of Utah, going to Washington at number 11. I like the next corner. At the Vikings, I can see either Derek Stingley Jr. or Trent McDuffie. I have Trent McDuffie going to them at number 12. I have another offensive tackle going to the Houston Texans at 13. This is where the Browns would have picked. We'll talk plenty about the Cleveland Browns in a minute, but the Browns would have picked 13. I have the Houston Texans taking Charles Cross, the offensive tackle out of Mississippi State, going there at 13. Next up at 14, Baltimore Ravens. Baltimore always seems to draft a really good defensive player in the first round, and I think this is no different. I think George Karlaftis, the defensive end, the edge out of Purdue, goes to Baltimore at number 14. However, I will not be surprised if Baltimore snags a wide receiver, possibly a Jamison Williams, possibly a Chris Olave, someone like that at 14. So I have George Karlaftis going to the Ravens at number 14. And we do, by the way, off screen, I have Joe and I have the NFL draft going on. I think this is the ESPN feed, and just some ridiculous things. This is Vegas, man. Anything goes, and should be very, very interesting tonight. Joe, real quick before I go, by the way, Vegas. This is at the Bellagio, the Fountains in Vegas. You've been there before. Yeah. So the players are apparently walking across stage to get announced, shake the commissioner's hands, do all that, take their photos. They have, and I don't know how deep the waters are in the Bellagio. They have a boat team of 3 people out there in case someone falls off stage or so. What do you think the chances are someone falling off stage in Vegas tonight?
I give it about a 20 to 1. 20 to 1.
20 to 1. All right. So maybe you're out in Vegas, throw down $10 on that bet. We'll see. But I'm hoping for their sake, no one falls off the stage. But that'll probably be pretty awesome tonight to see that, especially Vegas, obviously 3 hours earlier. So it's about 4. It'll be about 5 o'clock by the time the draft starts there. So you might start getting it in the second half, the sunset with the Bellagio fountains. I think. Now,
last year, was that the first one that we had, like the drone swarm where they made things appear in the sky, or was that the Olympics?
Know what? Well, I know they did one at the Olympics. Last year was in Cleveland, which was pretty cool. I want to say, did they do that maybe in Nashville a few years ago?
I'm thinking it was maybe 2 years ago.
It should be really interesting tonight to see what happens. And
overproduced like everything else in Vegas. Oh my
God. Well, it's in Vegas. It's got to be a show. You know what I mean? So it should be really interesting. All right. At 15, I have Jamison Williams, the former Ohio State Buckeye, who transferred to Alabama, going to the Philadelphia Eagles, who have 2 picks coming up. So Jamison Williams, the wide receiver out of Alabama, I have going 15 to the Philadelphia Eagles. If you remember, he tore his ACL in the championship game against Georgia. But by all accounts, this guy is ahead of schedule, getting back in, and could be ready by training camp. So this isn't one of those things where you're drafting a guy and stashing him for a year. This is a guy I think that you can expect to play very, very early on in your season. Maybe, might not be there week 1, but he'll probably be there in September for you. And a team that's drafting in the middle of the first round is probably only a piece or 2 away from making a playoff run. And that would also pair him up. They weren't teammates, but that would also pair him up with the former Heisman Trophy winner, Devontae Smith from last year, and give them a pretty formidable receiving core. The next, I have Chris Olave, Jamison Williams' former teammate, Garrett Wilson's teammate from Ohio State, going to the New Orleans Saints. New Orleans kind of had that pipeline from Columbus a few years back. They still have Michael Thomas. They had Michael Jenkins there for a while, Von Bell, Eli Apple, a whole bunch of Buckeyes were there in New Orleans. And I have Chris Olave going there at number 16 overall to the New Orleans Saints. With the next pick, now, the Chargers pick here at 17. The Chargers are a huge mystery to me. I really don't know what they're going to do. I think they're kind of they're so close to being so good that they could just take the best player on their board available. That could be an offensive tackle. That could be a wide receiver. That could be a defensive lineman. So I, really looked and, was thinking, what could the Chargers do? They've brought in so many guys in the offseason and have so much talent on that roster, not to mention Justin Herbert on a rookie deal as a quarterback, who a lot of people think he's a top 7 quarterback in the NFL. So I decided to go to the opposite side of the ball and take a defensive tackle, another Georgia Bulldog, Devontae Wyatt out of Georgia, as the 17th overall pick, or excuse me, 18th overall pick. No, 17 overall, which, I think is a pretty solid pick. You shore up your defensive line. But again, I could see the Chargers going anywhere from wide receiver to offensive tackle to defensive line here. So those are my thoughts on what they're going to do. Nakobe Dean, I have coming off the board next. to the Philadelphia Eagles. To me, this is a guy I've seen slipping in a lot of other drafts, but to me, this is probably my favorite player outside of Garrett Wilson in the first round. I think Nakobe Dean is an absolute star in the making. If you watch the Georgia defense, which was by far the best in the country in college football last year, Nakobe Dean was in on every single play. Every single play, made that leader of the defense, could stop the run, could get out in coverage, cover a tight end, cover a running back, do all the things you need and be that team leader. To me, any team that drafts Nakobe Dean is getting a leader that will come in and start for you day one and probably be a 7 to 8 to 10 year player for your franchise. So Nakobe Dean, I have going to the Philadelphia Eagles. So I have Jamison Williams and Nakobe Dean going to the Eagles at 15 and 18 respectively. Now, let's get in. I have my first quarterback coming off the board at number 19 to the New Orleans Saints. A lot of people favor either Malik Willis or Kenny Pickett as their first quarterback. Me, I think Malik Willis probably has the most upside, but I am going to go with Matt Corral. Now, a lot of people are probably going to think I'm crazy with this, but I think Matt Corral, he's from the South, played at Ole Miss, just has that kind of persona and charisma that they're looking for. Now, I know they have Jamison Winston, but I think he could be a nice backup, learn behind him, prepare, get ready, kind of put him in the oven for a year, let him marinate, let him cook, and we'll see what comes out next year. And maybe he's your starter. So I have Matt Corral as the first quarterback off the board at number 19 overall to the New Orleans Saints, which a lot of people, again, will probably disagree with. I could also see him falling to the second round, but Matt Corral to me comes off here at number 19, which, by the way, if you take Matt Corral to be your first quarterback off the board, at my last check, that was plus 1,800. So you get great odds on that. If you have Matt Corral coming off the board at, bet $10 on that, and win 180 and see what happens. So we'll see. We'll see what happens. So Edgar says, I missed that one. Does Pittsburgh trade up and draft Kenny Pickett? Edgar, I'm going to say no, they don't. I think Pittsburgh, if they hold still, and the next spot here at number 20, I think Malik Willis goes to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20. I think the Steelers really take a lot of pride in not trading away future draft assets unless they absolutely have to. By all accounts, Mike Tomlin really, really loves Malik Willis. Was at his pro day, spent a lot of time with him, just kind of had that look, that you give someone that you really, think highly of, or you have kind of that man crush on. I think Mike Tomlin might have a man crush on Malik Willis. And I think, again, this all goes back to Carolina at 6. If Carolina takes a quarterback, I think you could see a run of quarterbacks. If Carolina doesn't, which I don't think they will, I think quarterbacks start to fall a little bit. So I have Matt Corral going 19, Malik Willis going to the Pittsburgh Steelers at number 20. Now, the Pittsburgh Steelers this offseason, as we know, signed Mitch Trubisky, who was the number 2 overall pick in the Myles Garrett draft, but also in that draft was Deshaun Watson and Patrick Mahomes. So who could forget that draft? So that was a miss by the Bears. By the way, Mitch Trubisky also from Mentor, Ohio, right outside of Cleveland. So ironic the Steelers get another Ohio guy to play quarterback for them after Big Ben retires. Now, again, this could not happen, but this is, in my opinion, if Malik Willis falls to the Steelers, I think they grab him at number 20. The Steelers could also take an offensive tackle here. I think that is a position of need for them as well. They did bring in some guys in the offseason to help shore up their line a little bit, but I think if Malik Willis is there, the Steelers take him at number 20 overall. So we'll talk about that. And obviously the tragic passing of Dwayne Haskins, who was going to fight for that starting quarterback role. And then, say what you want. I'm not a fan, but, you got that other guy down there too, from Oklahoma State. What's his name? Myles Garrett hit him on the head. Why can't I've blocked his name out of my mind, but he'll also be there for a starting spot as well. So I think that job goes to Mitch Trubisky. Malik Willis comes in, learns behind him. Oh, Mason Rudolph. Thank you. So we'll see what happens with the Steelers. Then we'll kind of fire through these picks 21 through 32 here quickly to close out the first round and see, what I think, see what some of you guys think as we move forward. I have the Patriots next at 21, taking Andrew Booth, the cornerback out of Clemson. So he comes off the board at 21. I have the Green Bay Packers, who have 2 picks in the first round. They got this pick from Vegas. They traded Devontae Adams. I think this makes a whole lot of sense to pick up your next wide receiver. So I have Treylon Burks, the wide receiver out of Arkansas, going to the Green Bay Packers at number 22 overall. After that, Arizona Cardinals. This is another pick that's very interesting to me. They lost their slot receiver who went to Jacksonville in the offseason. They could take another wide receiver. I think Sky Moore makes some sense here. However, they need some help at the interior offensive line. So I have one of the draft's best players, or arguably the best players, but centers are not typically drafted very high. But this is a nice spot, a nice value for this guy to come off the board. I have Tyler Linderbaum, the center from Iowa, coming off the board here to the Arizona Cardinals at pick number 23. Next pick, the Dallas Cowboys. We know everything is bigger in Dallas, especially this next guy, maybe the biggest guy drafted in the first round. I have Jordan Davis, the defensive tackle from Georgia, coming off the board here, 24 to the Dallas Cowboys. They could shore up their defensive tackle spot, really help their run game. Now, here's my holdup with Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis, if you look back at his numbers at Georgia, did a great thing. They even put together a little mini Heisman campaign for the guy for a while. However, he's not on the field very much. He is not a 3-down player. He is a guy that played in roughly 30% of all snaps on defense for the Georgia Bulldogs. Now, in those 30% of snaps, he made a huge impact for the Bulldogs, but I don't think drafting him in the top 20 makes a whole lot of sense. But if you can get him in the middle to late 20s or possibly even sliding to the second round, I think that's a pretty good value for him. Now, let's go to 25 to the Buffalo Bills. A lot of people have the Buffalo Bills as the betting favorite in the AFC. By the way, I'm sipping on a little Buffalo Trace over here. If you've never had Buffalo Trace, amazing bourbon for a very, very cheap price, just sometimes hard to find. But going back to pick 25 with the Buffalo Bills, I have Johan Dotson coming off the board here, a wide receiver. Now, Buffalo needs a running back. I've seen some mock drafts saying Breece Hall to the Buffalo Bills here. I don't like that pick. I think if Buffalo wants a guy like that, you trade up in the second round and get them. But here, I think you take Johan Dotson. They lost Beasley in the offseason. But I like Johan Dotson here, the wide receiver out of Penn State. He's one of my top wide receivers, and I think he does a great job making plays, doing a lot. He made that Penn State offense go with really rough quarterback play. So I think Johan Dotson, if a lot of teams want to trade down and the Browns have a shot at this guy, I would love to see it. But I don't think he falls that far. I think the Bills could snatch him up as early as number 25. Next, going to the Tennessee Titans, Zion Johnson, the offensive tackle out of Boston College. I think that's just a really solid pick. And again, interior linemen don't go super high usually in the NFL draft, but I think this is a nice player for him. And I believe he can play guard or tackle. So that would really help out the Tennessee Titans. Now, Titans could be a wild card team for a potential quarterback here. This is where you could see Kenny Pickett come off the board. This is where you could see maybe a Desmond Ridder come off the board. We'll see what they end up doing, but I like the Titans to take Zion Johnson. The next pick, we have the Tampa Bay Buccaneers, and Tom Brady's back, so we got to protect Tom Brady. They have a lot of skill positions taken care of down there, so we're going to protect him and take Trevor Manning, the offensive tackle, out of I believe it's Northern Iowa, who is in Youngstown State's conference. So we'll see a small school guy that's big. I've heard he's nasty. Will get after it. So that could be a really, really good pick for the Buccaneers. And I could see also, if Malik Willis is not around, I could see the Steelers nabbing him at number 20 overall. We'll see what happens there. The Green Bay Packers are up again. I have them taking Kenyon Green, an interior offensive lineman. I believe he is out of Texas A&M. So I think that's a really nice pick for the Green Bay Packers. And I have them taking two offensive players to appease Aaron Rodgers, who just signed the most expensive contract in NFL history, at least by salary per year. So I have the Green Bay Packers taking Treylon Burks, get Aaron Rodgers a weapon, and I also have them taking Kenyon Green to protect Aaron Rodgers as well. Next up, the next two picks are actually going to be the Kansas City Chiefs. I could see them packaging these picks and moving up, but if, by the way I played it, I just played it no trades, but I could see Sky Moore, the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, coming off the board here to the Kansas City Chiefs, who, they lost Tyreek Hill. That is a huge, huge loss for the Chiefs. And, you got to replace a guy like that. You can't necessarily replace him, but you can maybe do a couple guys in his spots to maybe make up that difference.
Justin, I'm going to interrupt your show for 1 minute.
Please.
The other show wants the Buffalo Trace.
Oh,
so you've taken.
All right, hold on. So let me interrupt this. Let me interrupt the show here, and let me just get another little bit of Buffalo Trace. I gave Buffalo Trace, by the way, a ringing endorsement. So
the most popular beverage in the studio tonight.
Oh my goodness, we need Buffalo Trace. Kentucky straight bourbon, fantastic. Goes down smooth. I feel like we just need to have a commercial for them. All right. So Buffalo Trace is now off the board at number 28 here. But Sky Moore, I have going as the wide receiver out of Western Michigan, going here to the Kansas City Chiefs. Again, you try to maybe by committee replace Tyreek Hill. And the next name coming off the board is another Michigan player. I have Dax Hill, the safety, coming off the board here at number 30 to, once again, the Kansas City Chiefs. So the Chiefs take a wide receiver and they take a safety. Dax Hill, I believe, can play a little bit of corner in the slot, but also be that back end safety, stop the run, help Michigan be one of the best defenses in the country last season. And Kansas City lost Tyrann Mathieu in the offseason. So you lose Tyrann Mathieu, you plug in Dax Hill, you lose Tyreek Hill, plug in Sky Moore, and you got some more money to play with that you weren't paying Tyreek Hill with as well. So we'll see what happens there. Next pick is in division foe, in state foe, the Cincinnati Bengals. The next pick at 31, I have them. Now, I could see them taking a lineman here. I could see them going defensive back here. Now, they're pretty set at the skill positions on offense. Obviously, quarterback is set, as they took Joe Burrow 2 years ago, number 1 overall. They took Jamar Chase last year. Now, the offensive line, they did bring in some guys to help solidify that offensive line. So we'll see what they end up doing. But in this spot, I have them bringing in Kaiir Elam, the cornerback from Florida, as a defensive back to really help that defensive backfield, because look at these quarterbacks now. You're going to be playing against Deshaun Watson twice a year. You're going to be playing against Lamar Jackson twice a year. You're going to be playing, we'll see what the Steelers end up doing. But in the AFC, you got Mahomes, you got Josh Allen, you got a lot of guys. You just go down the list. Herbert, just a ton of guys. Derek Carr, Russell Wilson's now in the AFC. A ton of guys you got to go against. So you're going to need to solidify that back end and get some of these wide receivers covered. So the Cincinnati Bengals, Kaiir Elam, number 31, out of the University of Florida. And the final pick I have here at number 32 overall, I have small hands Kenny Pickett coming off the board, the quarterback out of Pittsburgh, coming off the board here in the end of the first round to the Detroit Lions. The Detroit Lions have another early pick in the second round. So I could see them waiting and then Kenny Pickett being an early day 2 selection, but I have them playing it safe. They have Jared Goff, the former number 1 overall pick that didn't pan out, that they traded in the Matthew Stafford trade. But I have them taking Kenny Pickett as their guy here to move up. Now, I love Detroit's coach. He is just, and forgive me, his name's escaping me right now, but he is a guy that just gets after it. And I think a guy that has a lot of fire, a lot of charisma would be a good fit here. So if somehow Nakobe Dean slips to number 32, that would be the best pick overall in the draft to me, going to the Detroit Lions. But we'll see what happens. But in this position, I have Detroit taking Kenny Pickett, the quarterback, at number 32 out of Pittsburgh, and I have them at number 2 taking Aidan Hutchinson, the defensive end out of Michigan, at number 2. So we'll see what. There is a ton of teams that are not picking in the first round. Obviously the Browns are not picking in the first round with the Deshaun Watson trade. The Miami Dolphins don't have a pick. The Vegas Raiders don't have a pick. There's 8 different teams. The Bears don't have a pick. So we'll get into all of that in a little bit. But let's start first with the Cleveland Browns. Now, I'm going to give you my wish list of what I want for the Cleveland Browns. Now, I know the Browns don't have a pick. We're going to get to the Steelers here in a minute. I know the Browns don't have a pick in the first round. Now, that doesn't mean they will not be picking tonight. Andrew Berry and company could trade up to the first round, which has been rumored, but I mean, it's the NFL draft. There's rumors that go on left and right. We'll see what ends up happening. But let's just hypothetically say the Browns stick and stay at 44, which means their first pick will be 12 picks in to or 13 picks into the second round tomorrow. No, 12 picks. Sorry. I have them. My wish list for the Browns would be take the best wide receiver or defensive end at number 44. That would be my wish, I guess, there. Then their next pick would be at 77. I think the Browns right there, if you don't take a wide receiver or defensive end, or whichever you take, wide receiver or defensive end at 44, I think you take the opposite position, the best available at 77. At 99, which is that compensatory pick they got from Minnesota for the GM Kobe, and I'm going to butcher his name, so I'm not going to say it. So at 99, I think you take the best available player, defensive tackle, tight end. You get some depth at offensive line or possibly safety. You can never have enough good cornerbacks. Same thing here at 118. I think you take the best available player for depth purposes. And then I have 2 other wishes for players. And this is kind of crazy. This is not something normal that I would normally wish for in a draft. But with these teams being so good, in the AFC. There's going to be a fine line between winning and losing. There's going to be a lot of close ball games. So my opinion, you draft a kicker. Now, I don't draft a kicker before the 5th round, but in the 5th round or 6th round or 7th round, you take a kicker, in my opinion. Now, people out there will be like, you don't take a kicker in the draft. That's crazy. The Browns have done this before. They've taken, they've taken, I think his name was Zane Gonzalez. They took him. They've taken another. I remember way back when it was Los Angeles, I think at the time, or Oakland, when they took Sebastian Janikowski. He was their kicker for 17 years. Help them get to a Super Bowl. Help them go deep in the playoffs. So it is not unheard of. Now, again, I do not take a kicker before the 5th round, but the kicker I have on my list that I would love to see the Browns take is Cade York out of Louisiana State, LSU. If you remember a couple years ago, I think it was the COVID season, Cade York hit this bomb against Florida. It was also the Marco Wilson game where Marco Wilson took off the shoe and threw it, and that kind of cost Florida the game. But Cade York hit an absolute bomb, a plus 50-yarder in the fog. Couldn't even see the field. They had to show the game from the overhead cam. But I really, really think he could be a future kicker for the Browns and a very, very good kicker for the Cleveland Browns. And in a division where you have Justin Tucker, you got Evan McPherson now down in Cincinnati, who showed what he can do last year with the Bengals, taking them all the way to the Super Bowl. And then, Pittsburgh has Boswell, who's a very reliable veteran. And you're going to be playing in some weather. You're going to be playing in some rough conditions. So you better get a reliable kicker. And, it's a 5th round pick. The Browns have a pretty deep roster. So, what other position is more important, in crunch time than a kicker? I would love to know my kicker is going out there with a great chance to win the game in a clutch situation rather than throwing out a guy that we just picked off the streets. And for me, a 5th round pick is well worth that. Let me know what you guys think, if a kicker's worth that or not. I know some people, it's not fantasy football where you wait until the last round and then take your kicker or your defense. But this is going to be, and if you remember in that first round of the playoffs, the Bengals won on a last second field goal to beat the Titans. And then the Raiders got into the playoffs with a last second field goal. Just different things like that. So many games come down to the wire. And if you don't have a reliable kicker, you do not have that weapon that a lot of teams have in their back pocket. So that's one of my pleas here. Cade York, LSU. The other guy I'm going to put out there, his name, I would like Jeremy Ruckert if the Browns could get him. We'll talk about some other tight ends here in a minute. But Matt, and I believe it's Araiza, he is the punter out of San Diego State, and he is basically the god of punting to a lot of people. The way he has set so many records at San Diego State, and if you can get this guy in the 6th or 7th round, take him. Because, we know this very well in Youngstown. Jim Tressel will tell you the punt is the most important play in the game. Now, Stefanski and analytical people will not say that. But to me, if you have a reliable kicker and a reliable punter, and you got a good offense and a good defense, you're pretty much set. Now, I know the Browns have some other holes to fill, but to me, I think that makes a lot of sense. All right. Let's switch gears here a little bit, and let's go to my prop bets and my best bets going on for the day. So here's my over-unders and some prop bets I have for you guys. Now, again, don't bet the mortgage on my picks, but in the past, I've been great at some, and other days, just like gambling, it's up in the air. But I have these were from CBS Sports. The odds were from that. So over 2.5 quarterbacks going in the first round was minus 250. I think that's a pretty safe bet. Now you got to bet 250 to win 100. But I think, and I have Kenny Pickett going as the third quarterback as the last pick, but we could see more. I think Malik Willis, Matt Corral, Kenny Pickett, Desmond Ridder are all possibilities to come off the board in the first round. So we'll see about that. Let me know what you think. But I think minus 250 for the quarterbacks are a pretty safe bet. I have Matt Corral. Now, this is more of a steep bet here at plus 1,800 to be the first quarterback off the board. You bet $100. Matt Corral is the first quarterback off the board. You win 1,800. So, that's up to you. Again, don't bet the mortgage, but that's maybe a bold prediction, I guess I have for the draft. I have the Steelers again at number 20, taking Malik Willis. I just had mentioned, I think quarterbacks are going to drop a little bit. I think they're going to slide down the board. I think the Steelers could either slide up a couple spots and take Malik Willis, or maybe he falls into their lap at number 20. We'll see what happens there. But the Steelers drafting Malik Willis is plus 300. So you can get 3-1 odds on taking Malik Willis if the Steelers pick him. I have Garrett Wilson coming off the board as the first wide receiver at pick number 8 overall to the Atlanta Falcons. He is minus 110. So basically even money with a little bit of juice there. For Garrett Wilson to be the first pick, the first wide receiver off the board. So I think that's a pretty fair bet. And like I said, it's even money. So it's basically a coin flip, and we'll see what happens. I think it's either Garrett Wilson or Drake London. A lot of people have Jamison Williams, I'm sure, as their first wide receiver off the board, but I think the injury causes him to slide a little bit. Next one, over under 6.5 wide receivers going in the first round. I have 7 coming off the board. So I'm going to take the over, which is at minus 110. So 6.5 wide receivers. I'm taking the over at 7. And again, my wide receivers coming off the board: Garrett Wilson to the Falcons, Drake London to the Jets. Let's see, scooting down, Jamison Williams to the Eagles, Chris Olave to the Saints. Who else do we got here? I have Treylon Burks going to the Packers. I have Johan Dotson going to the Bills. I have Sky Moore going to the Chiefs, and I believe that's 7. So we'll see. I think George Pickens is another name. That's another guy I would love for the Cleveland Browns if he is there, but I could see him very easily going off the board at number, in the top 32. We'll just leave it at that. And then first round running backs, I have the under. It is 0.5. So basically it's like, do you think there will be a wide receiver drafted, or do you not think there will be a wide receiver drafted? So that is minus 200. I am thinking that's a for sure bet. The only, and I guess I take that back because no bet is for sure. But I think Breece Hall is the only possibility of a first round running back. But I think he slides till at least halfway through the second round, in my opinion. The Buffalo Bills are the only team that really I could see taking him, and I think they're going to go with a wide receiver skill position there. So those are my prop bets. Over 2.5 quarterbacks, Matt Corral, first quarterback off the board at plus 1,800. Steelers to take Malik Willis at plus 300. Garrett Wilson minus 10, first receiver off the board. I have the over 6.5 receivers at minus 110 and under 0.5 running backs in the first round. Now, let's talk about the Browns, and then we'll talk about the Steelers here in a minute. So first of all, let's talk about the Cleveland Browns. Browns have let me count them up real quick. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6. They have 7 picks overall in this draft as it stands right now. Now they're going to be active. They're going to be moving. Something very interesting I heard on an interview with Andrew Berry. I believe it was Nathan Zagura, that did, by the way, congratulations to Nathan Zagura, one of the new voices of the Cleveland Browns in the booth with Jim Donovan. But he did an interview with Andrew Berry, and Andrew Berry pointed out something that I never would have thought of. He said that he believes, or he gets a call nearly every single pick, of the NFL draft, whether it's to make a trade or to come up and get something or possibly player movement. So I found that very, very interesting, that these GMs are getting calls and moving around, and there's all this speculation, and a lot of it doesn't happen, but there's so much chatter, so much talk that there's so much speculation out there, and that's what makes it fun. That's what makes it interesting. So anyway, the Browns don't pick until 44 overall in the second round. Their third round pick is number 78. And they have a comp pick, which is 99 overall. So they pick 44, 78, 99. In the fourth round, they have pick number 118, which is, pretty solid pick. You can get a starter at that position. So we'll see what they do. And then they have in the sixth, they have 202, seventh, they have two picks, 223 and 246. The team needs for the Browns, I think, obviously, wide receiver and edge rusher are the two glaring needs for the Browns. Defensive tackle is another weak spot for the Browns. And then tight end is a position that you could use. You get rid of Austin Hooper this offseason. You sign Njoku, and you also have Harrison Bryant as your backup. But Kevin Stefanski loves to play the 12 and 13 personnel. Maybe they get a wide receiver, play a little bit more 13 personnel, which 13 personnel is 3 wide receivers, 1 running back, 1 tight end. 12 personnel is 2 tight ends, and 13 personnel would be the 3 tight ends that the Browns ran more than just about any team in the league last year. So again, the Browns wide receiver, edge rusher, defensive tackle, tight end, and I have kicker on there too as a need for this Cleveland Browns team. Let's talk about the other, again, we're in Youngstown, Ohio here. So we're about 70 miles from Cleveland. We're about 60 miles outside of Pittsburgh. So, this city of Youngstown and its surrounding suburbs are usually cut in half with Browns fans and Steeler fans. And then you sprinkle in, maybe a couple 49er fans, a couple of Bengal fans, whatever, a couple of Bills fans. But primarily it's the Browns or the Steelers, and that's what makes the rivalry so great. And again, as a Browns fan, I can't really call it a rivalry because the Pittsburgh Steelers have pretty much dominated the Browns outside of the 2020 playoff game where the Browns were able to go into Heinz Field and win. Now, let's talk about the Pittsburgh Steelers and some of their draft needs, because you got to know your enemy. The Browns, you might not be drafting in the first round, but you can hope or wish or, want something else to happen for another team. So let's talk about what the Steelers' main needs are this year. And this, again, is my perspective, what I think the Steelers could benefit from the most. Now, quarterback is obviously a position of need. Mitch Trubisky, is he the long-term answer? I don't think so. Maybe he's a guy that has a rejuvenation like a Ryan Tannehill and comes in a solid organization with stability and, just gets it done, and the Steelers, they would bank on that and love that to happen. But in my opinion, you need an heir apparent. They didn't get one with Ben Roethlisberger because they thought Mason Rudolph might be that guy a few years back. Turns out he wasn't. You brought in Dwayne Haskins. Maybe you thought he was the guy. Obviously, a tragic situation there. And, that wouldn't work out. So right now you have Mitchell Trubisky and you have, Mr. Punchable Face. And I think they could very easily bring in Malik Willis from Liberty. Now, Malik Willis, something about him, he would instantly come in and be one of the best running quarterbacks in the league behind Lamar Jackson, behind Kyler Murray. Probably right up there in the 3 or 4 spot with running quarterbacks. And so he brings you a lot from an athletic perspective. He was originally a draft pick, originally a signee by Auburn. And, we'll see what pans out with him. But I think Malik Willis, who could be a nice pick for the Steelers, but could also be a bust. So it's one of those things. It's like, hey, do you take the chance? You might as well. We'll see what happens. The Steelers' offensive line is also another need, and cornerback could also be another potential need. Now, Joe Hayden, obviously we know Joe Hayden very well, is gone for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we'll see what they end up doing. So defensive back, offensive line, or quarterback are my three main needs for the Pittsburgh Steelers. So we will see what they end up doing. We're getting very, very close to the draft here. We're probably about 15 minutes away from the draft starting. So I can actually see somebody literally on live TV. Now, I know it's legal in Vegas, but there's just guys right there smoking weed right on the screen. So, and I'm watching the, looks like the NFL Network draft coverage. Just literally saw two guys out there just smoking weed, which, hey, whatever, to each their own. Anyway, let's talk about some Ohio State Buckeyes in this draft. Brett, I see you in the waiting room, and I see there's somebody else in the waiting room. We'll try to get to you in a minute. I don't have that capacity. I need Joe in here. So if I can get him in here, I'll get you in. So the Ohio State Buckeyes had 7 guys invited to the NFL Combine in Indianapolis. Those guys, we talked about 2 of them already, Garrett Wilson, Chris Olave. Garrett Wilson, in my eyes, and Chris Olave, in my eyes, should be top 15 picks, should be first rounders, no doubt. The next guy I think that will come off the board for Ohio State will be Nicholas Petit Frierre, the offensive tackle. I could see him going as early as the 2nd, but as late as the 3rd round. Just a solid career for Ohio State. Got beat a little bit in the Michigan game, so that tape is not going to be pretty, but hopefully for his sake, he's a guy that can come right in and start for a team, or if not, be your swing tackle, play your left tackle or right tackle, depending on need. I think the next guy that comes off the board for the Buckeyes, Jeremy Ruckert. Again, this would be a wonderful fit for the Cleveland Browns. Wasn't utilized a ton in the passing game for Ohio State, but I could see Jeremy Ruckert very easily coming off the board in the 3rd round or possibly the 4th round. But this is a guy that was injured at the Senior Bowl, didn't get to do a whole lot at the Combine, didn't get to do a whole lot at the pro day at Ohio State, but this is a guy that was kind of underutilized. Ohio State gets its tight ends ready for the NFL by becoming good blockers and occasionally by making some plays in the passing game. Jeremy Ruckert, if you go look at his tape, he is a stud in the passing game when it comes to receiving and has become a very, very good blocker. So if you can get him in the 80s or 90s or early hundreds, that's a really, really good pickup for any football team there. Now we'll talk about some of the other tight ends. I think he's probably the 3rd best tight end in this draft. We'll talk about some of those others in a minute. The 4th Ohio State player I have coming off the board would be Thayer Munford. I could see him going as early as the 4th round, but I could also see him going in the 5th or 6th round. Now, here's why. Thayer Munford, it was a great player at Ohio State, moved inside to guard this year, so he can play guard for you, he can play tackle for you. But I also think he had some back injuries, and I think NFL teams could see that as some red flags and, possibly, pass on him or put him down the board, depending on his health status. Next guy I see coming off the board for Ohio State is Tyrik Smith, a guy that had, kind of a quiet career at Ohio State outside of a few really, really shining moments. He had an amazing game against Clemson and Trevor Lawrence, the number 1 pick from last year, in the NFL draft, and really put some great stuff on tape, but was kind of quiet with what he did this season and basically overall in his career. When you're at Ohio State and you're a defensive end, you have a lot to live up to. The Bosa brothers, Chase Young, Hamilton. There's been a ton of guys that have come into the NFL ready to play in the NFL. Tyrik Smith could be one of those sleeper guys that could bring you in and be a nice rotational player for you. The final guy I think that will definitely get drafted for Ohio State, probably would have went higher if he would have come out last year, but Haskell Garrett. I could see him going in the 6th, maybe as early as the 5th round, but I think he's a 6th round pick, maybe as late as 7th. Defensive tackle, obviously we know about the offseason stuff 2 years ago where he was trying to break up a fight or something. I don't know the full details, but was actually shot in the face and made it through, and luckily survived, and obviously was able to finish out his playing career and do a lot of good things there. So Haskell Garrett, I think, is the last for sure Buckeye. I think 7 of those guys come off the board. I'm going to put one more name out there. He was not invited to the combine, but Master Teague. Now, Master Teague was basically Ohio State's 3rd running back. This guy, though, is an absolute freak in the weight room, straight line running. He's not a guy that's going to be your every down back, but this is a guy I think that could come in, be a great special teams player, possibly your goal line back. And if you could pick him up in the 7th round and take a flyer on him, why not? He would be a solid player. So I think Master Teague will, if at the very least, be a preferred free agent. And, but I could see him, and I think a team would be smart to take a flyer on him in the 7th round. So those are the Buckeyes, I think, that could come off the board. I still see you guys in the waiting room. I'm sorry. As soon as I can get Joe back here, we'll get you in. Now, we'll talk about Browns under contract real quick. The Browns have locked up the main pillars of their team. Obviously, we know Deshaun Watson. Whatever your opinion is on Deshaun Watson, I think we can all at least agree that he is a top 5, top 6 quarterback in this league when healthy. So Deshaun Watson is signed through 2026. Nick Chubb is signed for the next 3 seasons. Amari Cooper technically is signed through 2024, but he has one of those contracts that you can easily get out of. Joel Bitonio and Wyatt Teller, your 2 interior guards, are signed through 26 and 25 respectively. Your best player on defense, Myles Garrett, is signed through 2026. Denzel Ward is signed through 2027, just signed the most lucrative contract in NFL history by a corner. And you have the other corner opposite him, Greg Newsome, your 1st round pick last year. Joe has entered the room. Joe, I think we have a few people in our weight room or whatever that is. Are we? I
see that. Yeah, you want me to throw them in there?
Yeah, can we enter them in? So Brett, and I'm not sure. I can't. There's no picture on the other one, so I'm not sure. So Mr. Franklin, welcome to the show. How are you?
Good. How are you?
Oh, can we hear him? Hold on one second, Brett. Give me a test real quick.
Can you hear me?
Oh, there we go. Perfect.
There we go.
Oh, gotcha. All right. So, Mr. Franklin, as you can, if you're watching, you can obviously see he is a large Buffalo Bills fan, and also looks like the head coach of the New York Giants, Mr. Dable. So,
love my doppelgangers that exist everywhere.
No doubt. So Brett, obviously you're an Ohio State fan. You do root for the Cleveland Browns, but you're a Buffalo Bills fan. So let's talk real quick about the Buffalo Bills and give me your thoughts on what they might do. I believe it's 25 overall. They're picking. What do you think about that?
Well, there's a handful of things I want to see happen. For a long time, towards the end of the college football season, I was pretty sure that it was going to be Chris Olave. Like that he would fall to that. But after the combine, he's just not going to be there. He's going to get taken earlier than 25.
Sure.
So at this point, they have a bad issue with depth of cornerback. So I forget. I'm drawing a blank on his first name. I believe that Clemson seems to be around that point. Good pick. But a lot of people are talking about Breece Hall.
Okay.
So I am a proponent. I wanted running back last year. I wanted Najee Harris. And if we were to take Breece Hall, I'd be okay with that. There's not a lot of pieces they need, and I think at that point you're just adding you're just adding to a really great offense. But that's where they got to go. It's one of those three positions.
Okay. So corner, running back, and wide receiver.
Wide receiver. Or the receiver depth is. I mean, they have Gabriel Davis, Stephon Diggs. Diggs just got locked up to long-term extension. Gabriel Davis is still on his rookie contract, but they have pieces that they've brought in. They've lost a few, brought in a couple more, but a lot of these guys aren't here for more than a couple years. So if Olave was to be there, he's my number one. And it's not so much as being an Ohio State fan. It's that this guy is an amazing route runner, and you put him in that slot position with Gabriel Davis and Stephon Diggs on the outside, and he's all of a sudden looking pretty good, and that offense is going to be brutal.
Yeah, Josh Allen would probably like that a little bit too, and it's interesting because a lot of people compare Garrett Wilson to Stephon Diggs. So you kind of bring back that same offense, and then you got your Gabriel Davis as your Smith and Jigba or whoever you want to.
Yeah, the guy that can take the top off the whole thing.
No doubt.
Yeah, so that's where I think they're going to go. I'd be shocked if they did anything else. Linebacker maybe. I just don't think they're going to take a linebacker at that spot though.
Okay. I've been preaching that Nakobe Dean is my favorite player in this draft. And I think any team that gets Nakobe Dean is getting an absolute star defender. I know he's a little bit undersized, but I think that guy would be an absolute stud. And if the Bills got him, that would be a great pick too. Yeah,
I know you're right. I wasn't even thinking in that context, to be honest with you. It's after Tre'Davious White went down, like, it showed the lack of depth that team had. They all of a sudden they couldn't stop much passing from anybody. So it was now, that's why I think that's the number one focus. But to me, at that point of the board, Olave is number one on the board, and then you can filter in a handful of cornerbacks. Okay. Very good. So Brett, let me tell you, I just want to make sure I'm getting this right. In my mock, I took Johan Dotson out of Penn State at 25 for the Bills. What would you think about that pick if he were to land there? I like it. I think he's a little underappreciated, to be honest with you. I think he's got really good speed. He's got good hands. He comes from obviously a rival. So,
right.
I'm not just saying that to say it. You can see what he has. Yeah. Is he Garrett Wilson? No, but he, at that point in the draft, he's a guy that could really fill in. So I don't know if I would take him over a corner, to be honest with you, but there's a handful of players I wouldn't be against. And with him, I wouldn't be against him.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, Brett, let me ask you this. I'm gonna just give you some over unders here and tell me what you think to give another perspective on it for some people. So I'm not going to tell you. Well, maybe you heard, but I'm not going to tell you what I did. So the over under for quarterbacks drafted in the first round this year is 2.5. What do you think? Are you taking the over or the under if you got to bet the mortgage on it?
I'm taking the over.
You're taking the over?
Yeah. If you would have asked if it was 1.5 in the top 10, I'd probably take under. But 2.5 for the whole first round. Yeah, there's gonna be teams that take. There's gonna be teams that trade up to get somebody. I expect Malik Willis to be gone, Pickett to be gone. I do think Corral goes as well.
Yeah, those were the three I had as well. I surprisingly had Corral as the first one off the board at 19, Willis at 20, and then Pickett at 32. So
is the Steelers the 20 pick?
Yes. Yeah. I had the Steelers taking Willis at number 20. I just think from everything I've heard, Tomlin loves him. So
they're taking a quarterback one way or the other. I don't really care I don't know if it matters who it is. I think as long as Malik Is it Wills or Willis? I keep saying Willis.
I think it's Willis. Malik
Okay.
Willis.
Okay. Just want to make sure I'm getting it right.
No, it's all right.
And then, him or Pickett. I think Pittsburgh likes both of them, from what I understand. And they're taking a quarterback. They really don't have an option. It's obviously not a great quarterback class, but to be able to pick 20 and get one of the top 2 quarterbacks,
sure,
that's not bad.
I'm just looking at my screen here. I'm watching the draft. Looks like it's about to kick off in just a minute, but is that Ice Cube? I can't tell. Yeah, it is. Yeah, I see the back of his jersey. That's Ice Cube. I don't know who this next guy is. Is that Derek Carr? Might be. It probably is Derek Carr. It makes a lot of sense. Get your team's best player up there. But all right, Brett, let me ask you this before the draft starts and stuff. I have Trayvon Walker. I don't think that's the best pick at number 1, but I have him going to Jacksonville at number 1. Who do you think the number 1 overall pick is?
I've been thinking it's going to be Hutchinson. Honestly, I'm not enamored with anybody at that number 1 pick. I do think, I guess, if you look at the type of player that Trayvon Walker is, he did have a lot of other guys around him that may have pushed him to be better than maybe he, kind of hit his ceiling a little bit. I don't know. I didn't see enough Georgia games to be able to decipher that. I at least saw enough of Michigan games to know Hutchinson's got a great motor. I kind of think that they're still going to lean that way, but we'll see. It's going to be one of the 2 for sure.
Now they're showing the Jaguars war room right now, and how relieved do you think? Now we're obviously Ohio State guys. How relieved do you think that Jacksonville fan base is to not see Urban Meyer in their draft room this year?
Oh, infinitely. I know we talked about it several times, but it was such a bad move. He's a good college coach, one of the best.
Great college coach.
He was never going to make it in the NFL, not with the way he coached, not with the way he handled teams. It works in college, at least it did. I don't know if it'll work much more with the NIL and being able to transfer immediately, but he when it comes to the NFL, he can't control the guys the way he wants to.
No doubt.
His team doesn't work.
Right. Yeah, you're dealing with grown ass men that are making more money. Well, half of them are making more money than you are, and it's like, well, dude, yeah, I'll respect you if you respect me, but if you're not giving me that same respect, you're kicking the kicker and you're calling coaches out, like it's just not going to work. So,
you can make enemies real quick in the NFL.
No doubt. Now, one more quick Urban question. Do you think he coaches again?
College, maybe.
Okay.
If I'm not even trying to, I don't know if I would if I were him.
Okay.
I would try and maybe reach back about Fox or one of the other game day sort of things and see if they've got a spot open, something he could do. Maybe he can call games. I don't know, but I would look more to that. Get away from the the coaching aspect of it. I think his type of leadership is sort of a dying breed. And I think I think it's going to be tougher for him to get at least one that he can stick around for a while.
Right. Yeah.
Although for him,
maybe
like 3 years.
And maybe take the team flight back instead of staying in Cincinnati and driving up to Columbus. That's probably a good idea. All right, Brett, let me ask you this. Let's shift to the Browns. Mm-hmm. Since, you also follow the Browns a lot and, are pretty knowledgeable about them. With the Browns, what do you think their most glaring need is?
Wide receiver.
Okay.
To me, it's wide receiver. I think defensive tackle is probably a big spot to go as well. I've been on that wide receiver train though for a while for them.
Yeah.
When they had a first-round pick, Garrett Wilson was the one I was hoping that would land to them. Obviously, I don't think he would even make it that far at this point either. but one of them one of those 5 was going to be there, and to me, the wide receivers had to be at the top of the list, but you don't have a pick. But anyway, I would say that or tackle, defensive tackle, are the 2 biggest areas of need.
Who do you think has the better career, Olave or Wilson?
Oh man, that's a really. Good
let me
question.
add this. Let me add this one in too, or Jamison Williams.
Ooh, you know what? I like Williams. I know he threw some shade at Ohio State after he was gone, but I like Williams. I think with him, there's a bit of an injury issue. I think you saw it a little with the ACL. I know we've progressed a lot in the last 15 years with how those injuries are handled and how they recover. But sometimes you never see the guy like return to what he was, at least with speed, which is what Jamison Williams had. I think with Olave, I think the one big thing with him, I think that separates him from Garrett Wilson is his route running. He's the best route runner in this class, and when you're a good route runner, you could last a long time in the NFL.
Yep.
Wilson's got a lot of like really great characteristics too, but I think with Olave, his ability to separate himself and have good routes that just opens up playbooks.
Yeah. And the word you hear with him is smooth. He's just classic. All right, Brett, let me ask you this too. Who's the player in this draft? Let's take the Browns out of it. Let's take the Bills out of it. If you're just picking for team X, and you can pick anyone you want. The Jaguars are about to pick here in a minute. We'll cut in when that happens. But if you could pick any player in this draft for your team, who are you picking?
Honestly, I think Kayvon Thibodeau is the best player in this draft. He's the one I would probably go for.
Interesting.
There's a couple of Georgia guys I like, a couple safeties, Hamilton, Stingley. Those are very key parts of not just your defense, but your overall team. So
sure.
I would lean towards Thibodeau. I think he's got that makeup to be the best player that comes out of this class. He got jumped. I know he was considered the number 1 pick for a while, but he got jumped at the end of the season. So I think, he just wasn't able to pick it back up after the combines, but I really do think he's the most athletic. I think he's got the biggest motor, and I think he's got what it takes to really make an impact almost immediately.
Yeah, I agree with you. I think he has the highest ceiling. He may have the lowest floor because the speculation about him is he doesn't love football as much as an Aidan Hutchinson, as much as a Trayvon Walker. So we'll see where. Where do you think Kayvon Thibodeau lands in this draft? I have him going 3.
He was top 5. To me, I think he was going to go top 5. Who's at 5?
It is the New York Giants.
I think they might take him, to be honest with you, but I know they didn't extend Daniel Jones, so that's another thing that we have to look into.
Right.
Here's the pick.
Oh, here it comes. I'm putting the mortgage on Trayvon Walker. I think they should take Hutchinson, but I'm say all the money on Trayvon Walker.
There you go. And you just made a buttload.
All right, 1 for 1. 1 for 1. Write it down. Or I'll just cash out here because it's all going downhill from here. Now, this is an interesting pick because Trayvon Walker, in his career, did not have as many sacks as Aidan Hutchinson did last year, which is kind of interesting. But like you had said, he's kind of that Georgia defense is so loaded that maybe you could look at it 2 different ways. That maybe hides him a little bit, or it maybe lets him do a little bit more because other guys are, stepping up his game.
Yeah, and the same thing with Jordan Love. Was it the defensive tackle? Is that who?
Jordan Davis. Jordan Davis.
Jordan Love's the quarterback for Green Bay.
That's all right. That's all right.
It's sort of the same thing with him. I think you look at their production wasn't there. But they're incredibly talented, but did things get spread out between the guys? But were they also successful because of how good everybody is? He's going to a team where you don't necessarily have that.
Exactly.
So I guess maybe in the long run, what was Jacksonville looking for?
Right.
Immediate impact, which is what Hutchinson probably could have brought them, or maybe a long term with a higher ceiling, which is what Trayvon Walker probably has.
No doubt.
So it's honestly either way, especially for a team as bad as Jacksonville has been with the one aberration of a 10-win playoff win season. They need that sort of player. They need the longevity. They need the guy that has the high ceiling and can come in and do something down the road.
And they brought in who'd they just bring in? Doug Peterson, right? As their new head coach.
Yeah.
Good he was like
I know Philly
average...
was not the greatest end.
right.
He's got a good track record.
He did win a Super Bowl. Super Bowl. And made steak out of rump roast with Nick Foles there too at the end, and Carson Wentz.
Yeah.
So,
how he won a Super Bowl with those two is good for him.
Yeah, and beat the Patriots too.
Yeah, well, then they came back too. Patriots were winning that, I believe it.
Yeah.
They had a lead at halftime. They don't usually lose when they have that lead.
No doubt. All right, so Detroit is on the clock next. I think this is the kid is from Michigan, played at Michigan. I think it makes all the sense in the world here to take Hutchinson.
Yeah, they got to take him. I don't think one, you had a really great player fall in your lap that was projected number one just 2-3 weeks ago.
Right.
So I think at this point he's yours. I do think if Jacksonville took Aidan, I think they take Thibodeau. But I think with Aidan falling to them, I think that's where they're going at this point in time. They pick again at the end of the draft, 32, right? End of the first round.
Yes.
All right.
End of the first
They're
round.
not going to take a quarterback here. It's just too high value of a pick for this type of quarterback.
Exactly. Yeah, I think it's got to be Aidan Hutchinson. I think that's the safest pick as well. You're going to get some good production. You might not get the highest ceiling guy, but you're not going to get a guy that busts as well.
He's going to have a motor that just goes.
Exactly. So here comes the selection.
There we go.
Let's see if we go 2 for 2.
Yep.
2 for 2. 2 for 2. Cash him in.
Cash him in. Are you on ESPN or NFL?
I'm on NFL. I'm on the NFL network here.
Yeah, so am I. So I might be just a little ahead of you, but that's okay.
We're streaming. I gotta say though, too, you've been down to this studio. We have all the technology in the world. So we are, we got pretty decent internet connection down here. So hopefully that's speeding up the things. So we have 2 defensive edges off the board, 2 defensive ends. Trayvon Walker, Aidan Hutchinson. I think your guy Kayvon Thibodeau is coming off the board here, number 3 to Houston. If I'm Houston, I'm taking the best players available because you need everything.
This is where I think Evan Neal might come into play.
Interesting. Okay.
Look, I think they're good. It's weird. Davis Mills looked pretty good as a rookie quarterback on a horrible team.
Right.
And I think they need to make the effort to get not necessarily weapons around him, but pieces to protect him. And I think offensive tackle, Evan Neal is a really good tackle. He's going to be in the league for a long time. And, we can get a frozen take on that one later if he doesn't work out. But I really do think.
No, agreed.
Well, Alabama guys, especially the tackles, are known to just to succeed. So
Alabama wide receivers, tackles, running backs. It's usually a safe bet.
I think the Jets are at 4, right?
The Jets are at 4.
This is where they get interesting. I think this is where the draft kind of we'll see where the route it takes. Does one of the receivers come off at this point.
We're gonna stay live until pick 6 is made. So if you can stick with us until pick 6, so we got about 20-25 minutes or so until the pick's made. We're going to stay live on this show till pick 6 because I think that's going to be very interesting. If we stayed till pick 20 with the Steelers, we're going to be here. We're going to be here a long night, and I'm not going to keep you
forever like we were last year.
Honestly, I don't got that kind of time tonight too. Time is money. So, but this, I think the draft personally for me starts at 6, and with what Carolina does, it's going to be so intriguing if they take a quarterback or if they take the best player available. So,
yeah, I mean, I know we've talked about it. I'm going to go back to our draft last year, our mock draft, and I said they needed to take a quarterback, and I got they have Darnold, and I'm like, well, I don't know if he's going to pan out. He didn't, and he's not going to.
He certainly did not.
Yeah. So, but here's the thing. I don't know if they reach this year for a quarterback at this point.
Right.
I think they may, it's weird to say, but they may just realize that they've got another year or so before they're competing, and they're going to add some other pieces. Then next year's quarterback class, which is going to be spectacular again.
Right.
Be kind of in on it. Probably another early, top 10 pick.
Okay. All right. Well, we got Houston's pick is in. So I'm going Kayvon Thibodeau. Who are you going with?
I'm going with Neil. I'm going with the offensive tackle.
Okay. All right. So we'll see. If Brett or I make money on this. I'm
trying
to go 3 for 3
I'm probably
here.
going to miss on this one too.
Oh man. So I'm not going to lie. Franklin, Aidan Hutchinson's dad kind of looks like you a little bit.
Look. It's not even doppelgangers anymore. They're just everywhere.
And if we're drafting moms too, I think Aidan Hutchinson's mom might be drafted first overall in the NFL Draft Players Mom Draft. So good looking woman there. So
that's a tricky draft for us to have. Let's stay away from that one.
I think that's maybe not too PC in these days and times, but it's always good. We can poke a little fun at it. All right, let me ask you this. We already talked about the Ohio State wide receivers. And by the way, if you just are hearing this, Brett's taking Evan Neal with the 3rd pick. I'm taking Kayvon Thibodeau. This is our first one, I think, that's different.
First one I stuck with Hutchinson, but
that's right. Okay.
I was iffy.
Right.
I was 50-50 on it.
Okay. All right. So we'll see what happens here. But so Brett has Evan Neal. I have Thibodeau. So we'll see what the Houston Texans need. And literally nothing they do here can be wrong because they need just about everything.
Yeah.
And they accumulated a lot of picks from the Cleveland Browns, obviously from
this is the type of team that you don't want to trade picks away and get draft capital. You've got a lot of holes to fill. Start filling them.
Mm-hmm. All right, here we go. So let's see what they do.
Whoa.
Oh, Derek Stingley Jr.
Wow.
Okay.
Man.
I mean, hey, it's a passing league. I thought he would go between 8 and 12. That was my range for him, but a pretty stud
I would have
player.
put him down further. I know they just said it on NFL Network. I Sauce Gardner. I thought he would be going first either way.
I thought so too. But hey, I mean, the NFL is now a passing league. So if you're taking defense, you're either taking an edge rusher or a corner at the top of the board. And that's why you're going to see wide receivers go early. You're going to see offensive tackles to protect that quarterback. That's why those middle tier positions you don't see go off as much. So Brett and I both strike out on this one. And the Texans surprise us with Derek Stingley Jr. And if you guys are staying with us, we're going to stay through the next 3 picks, 4, 5, and 6, because I'm very, very curious what the Carolina Panthers are going to do. By the way, Brett, a name we have not talked about that we probably need to talk about that is not in this draft, but however was the first pick of the draft in 2018, Baker Mayfield, what I think he gets traded tomorrow night before the draft starts. I think we're going to start hearing some rumors either tonight or tomorrow about, this team didn't get the quarterback they wanted. They're going to go grab Baker, X team, whatever. So what's your overall opinion on the Baker Mayfield situation?
He's got to get traded. Obviously, there's no ifs, ands, and buts about it. The Browns have no leverage. So, they may only get, fifth round pick out of it, maybe fourth at most. If you get someone who's like, yeah, we definitely want him, or something, you get two teams into a little bidding war, but you're not going to get much out of it, which stings a little bit. And we're probably going to have to pay some of his salary, but it is what it is. I think what Carolina does here is actually going to dictate how that goes. I think if Carolina doesn't take a quarterback here, you're going to see them or Seattle tomorrow chatting with the Browns.
So if you had to pick which team does Baker Mayfield end up on? If
I think Seattle. No, to be honest with you.
So you think Seattle? Okay.
Yeah. I've been thinking that's kind of where he was going to go in the first place. They have enough issues. Drew Lock isn't it? I think when it comes down to it, they're going to need to make a move. And I think Baker, at least you still have that fifth-year option available if needed. I think that can still apply with a trade. So I think it's there. I think Seattle's the team to go. I don't know if Carolina will pull the trigger or not, but I think those are the two teams that are likely to be around for it.
Okay.
Depending if they take a quarterback here or not. Carolina may just take one and that's it.
Now the other possible team that I was thinking, there's always the Detroit Lions as the wild card because of John Dorsey's with the Lions. But the wild card team for me is Tampa Bay. Now, they did take a quarterback last year. They did take, I forget his name, the kid out of Kyle Trask out of Florida last year. And he's their backup. But, you got Tom Brady there. You got Kyle Trask on a rookie year, not a first-round pick that could be, not making a whole lot of money. You bring in Baker Mayfield as a legit backup to a possible Super Bowl contending team. Baker could learn behind the best to ever do it at the quarterback position. And then, maybe Kyle Trask gets another year in the oven to bake and get a little bit better. No pun intended with the bake, but, so we'll see. I mean, then you got a pretty solid quarterback position if you're, Jason Light and Tampa Bay down there. So.
Yeah, that's a really interesting take. I actually kind of like it as much as I, dislike Brady. But Baker going there would benefit him a lot.
Well, Franklin, let me ask you, why do you dislike Brady as an Ohio State and Buffalo Bills fan? I mean, is there a reason?
I'm at a loss for words as to why and how much I do. But it's.
I mean.
To be fair, though, at Michigan, he wasn't really anything to speak of at the time.
Right. Yeah. He was a good college quarterback, not a great, nothing spectacular.
Yeah.
But I mean, in the NFL, my God. All right. So, Brett, let's real quick shift to the New York Jets. Their pick is in. In my mock draft, I got to make sure I'm doing this right so I'm not screwing it up. But in my mock draft, I had them taking Ahmad Sauce Gardner here. So that's what I thought they would do. What do you say?
Man, I kept thinking that they were going to take like Jamison Williams or Drake London. I really thought they were going to take a wide receiver.
They do have that number 10 pick, by the way.
Yeah.
So they'll be.
Yeah. They do. Oh, they just have so many holes. You could really pick anything, and it's going to work out for them because they just have so many to fill. You know what? I don't know. I'm going to go with you on that one. I'm going to go Sauce Gardner too. I don't think they go with Thibodeau here. He's like my kind of like X factor. Like I feel like he's going to go here in the next couple picks.
Yeah. Yeah, and
but I don't
Thibodeau.
know the Jets defensive line issue. I don't know if that is a need, but you're in a league, you're in a division that's got Tyreek Hill down in Miami. You've got the Buffalo Bills in their offense. And while you have a bunch of no-name receivers in New England, you have Mac Jones, who
right,
had a great year last year, and you need a corner to come up and defend these guys. So
no doubt.
So Sauce Gardner falls to them here at 4. It might be a good deal.
Okay. All right. Yeah. So we're both going Sauce Gardner here at 4. Ahmad Sauce Gardner has, as everyone probably knows, never gave up a touchdown in college at the University of Cincinnati. So here is the pick. We will see what happens.
There we go.
There we go. Hey, 3 for 4. I'm hitting better than the Cleveland Guardians. That's for sure. So are you.
To be fair, I could be hitting 1 for 4 and better than the Cleveland Guardians.
Very fair. Very fair. So Ahmad Gardner out of the University of Cincinnati goes to the New York Jets, arguably the best corner. So it's very interesting. 2 defensive ends, 2 corners coming off the board first here. 4 in the first 4 picks in the NFL. So that's showing an offensive league. These teams need to start shutting down these high-powered offenses. So, the Jaguars and the Lions are trying to get after the quarterback.
For Sauce here to start. He got lost going up to the stage.
Oh, jeez.
He went the wrong direction.
The wrong way. Oh, he found it. Hey, he's showing off his speed a little bit down that hallway. Showing off a little bit, but I mean, you got the name Sauce Gardner. You're coming in with some juice already, and
yeah, for sure. And
taking,
you know what though, we were at least able, especially with Cincinnati being such a good team this last year, we were able to catch a few games of them, and he's the real deal. Even against the tougher competition, some of the guys, he still did not give up a touchdown.
No doubt.
And I think that's a testament to how good he is, how good Fickle is as a head coach as well. So I think this is a great pick by the Jets. They need to get somebody back there to help stop some of these wide receivers and offenses in the AFC East.
I agree. So we have, and he's a really tall corner. You don't see guys that are almost 6'3" going too often. So
by the way, that's a hell of a comparison, Antonio Cromartie.
Was that the guy with all the kids? Didn't he have like 12 kids?
I don't know.
Antonio Cromartie.
I don't know if that was him or not.
Sorry, Antonio, if that's not you, but one of those guys that was a great corner.
He was with San Diego for a long time.
Yes. Yeah, it was one of the Cromarties had like 25 kids, so and probably knew the names of 2 of them. So we'll see, but yeah. Interesting. 2 defensive ends, 2 cornerbacks coming off. I think for sure, 100%, we're going to have an offensive player coming off the board here. The other New York team, the New York Giants, is on the board here. Number 5, Franklin. I have that Icky Ekwonu out of NC State coming off the board here at number 5 in my mock draft. What say you?
Boy, I got a little thrown with these guys. Not seeing today that they didn't pick up Daniel Jones' 5th year. So now I'm not sure but they do have another pick, 7, I think.
They have 2 of the next 3 picks.
Yeah. They need just so much help too. You know what? I'm gonna move Evan O'Neal over this way here again.
Okay. That's a good pick. That's actually who I have Carolina taken at the next spot. So I think
it just said Evan O'Neal, but yeah, Evan Neal.
Yeah, no, I mean Evan O'Neal or Evan Neal, offensive tackle, yes. OT. So I'm picking up what you're putting down there. So all right, so Franklin and I both have offensive tackles coming off the board. I'm going to go with Ekwonu out of NC State. Franklin is going to go with Evan Neal out of Alabama. So
Ekwonu is a really good one there too. They really, if they're going offensive tackle, they're not going to go. Either one is a good pick for them.
And I would just, obviously I'm not like watching tape and doing deep dives on these guys, but just reading some articles and listening to some other experts talk about these guys. Ekwonu, the reason I like this guy is he was offered a scholarship from Harvard, I believe from Yale as well. So he's a very, very intelligent guy, knows the ins and outs. And to be that left tackle, that pillar of the offensive line, I think you got to be an intelligent guy and also, be able to be fierce and get after it. And NC State had a pretty nice year this past year.
They did.
Knocking off Clemson.
And team. They were fun to watch. They had a really nice stretch of games there. No, but you're right. When you think about it, usually when you see some of the best tackles, they usually have that high Wonderlic score. And I don't know if the NFL's still doing that, but I know.
You know what? They got rid of it this year.
Okay.
This is the first year.
I haven't heard anything about it this year, but I know some of your best guys had the best scores in that, some of the best tackles. You need those really intelligent guys that can maneuver quickly and think fast on your outside. Guards, you just need guys who know where to be at the right time.
Right.
But your tackles have to constantly move and be able to read the defenses. So,
very good. All right. Well, we have the pick is in 2020. They took another offensive tackle. I can't remember who they took last year, but the pick. Oh no, they took Tony, the wide receiver out of Florida last year. Let's see who they take. I don't know who this kid is. I don't want to make fun of him in case there's something wrong, but he's a little exuberant on stage. So let's just say that. But the Giants make their pick here. Let's see who they take. Again, Franklin has Evan Neal. I have Ekwonu. And you know what, though? Give that kid credit. If I was on stage, too, I'd be doing the same crap, too. That's pretty cool. And you're in Vegas, man.
Yeah. Good.
By the way,
that's actually pretty cool of them to do.
Mm-hmm. I can't. I don't have the audio, so I can't hear the backstory.
He's got a heart transplant.
Oh, okay. All right. Well, good for this kid.
That's actually what the earbuds are for. It's to listen.
Oh, okay. Okay.
The audio at very low level, but yeah.
Okay. I love his enthusiasm. I'm taking back anything negative I said. All right. So let's see what Sam Prince.
Wish recipient.
Okay. Let's see if we're right.
Wow.
Kayvon Thibodeau. There's
Why
your
didn't I
dude.
stick with my first one where I said he'd go top 5?
So I will say this. We both had him going in the top 5. So, yeah. I mean, that's kind of a win, right? Kind of a win.
I thought Neal dropping would change their pick, but yeah. But no, they look just like the Jets. They've got a lot of holes to fill, and
right.
At this point in time, whoever's at the top of your board's got to take them. You're not trying to fill in other spots. You just got to take the best available at the top of your list.
No doubt. You know what? And I can pretend to, like, I know what these teams are thinking. Like, I'm pretty sure the New York Giants have done a little bit more investigating on Kayvon Thibodeau than I have. So, good for them. This guy should be a star. I remember before the Ohio State game last year, he was even like questionable to play, and he was still, they were still so worried about this guy and what he might do. So Kayvon Thibodeau could be an absolute star in this league, and getting him at 5 could be a steal. We'll see how that all
going to the
out.
Giants, going to New York City, that could be a real interesting thing when you look at some of the defensive ends, linebackers, defensive guys that they've had that have been stars. You could see this turning out to be like a pretty good fit for him.
Pretty good text we just got already. Totally lost in coverage. He's a Jet already. Talking about Sauce Gardner. Getting lost in coverage. I love it. Well done. Good text. All right. So this is going to be the last pick we stay on air live. We're going to close out after this pick. So we got a few more things. So I'm going to go with Evan Neal here too, Franklin. I know that was your last pick. Aquanu is still on the board. For some reason, I thought Evan Neal was just a better fit for the Panthers, but I think this is the most intriguing pick of the draft because if they take a quarterback here, that changes my whole philosophy on what they might do. And there's so many moving parts, but I really think, and we're seeing some footage here of Thibodeau. Man, that guy's a freak. But I think if the Panthers take a quarterback, which I don't think they're going to do, they're very quarterback hungry, and Matt Rule is an offensive coach and a good quarterback coach. But I don't know. I think you take the best player available, and I think that's either Aquanu or Evan Neal, depending on what their board says.
Yeah, clearly I have an affinity for Evan Neal because I'm going to stick with him here too.
All right.
I'm with you. I think there is a chance that they do take, and if they took one, I think they do take Malik Willis. But
okay.
I don't think they do. I think Matt is going to just say, look, we got to build the pieces and then see how we do this later, whether it's trade for somebody or wait till next year. I know last year wasn't good, and sometimes that plug gets pulled real quick, but I think he's going to wait. I think he's going to hold off and just try and build the right pieces to at least make them a decent team. They still have McCaffrey, right? He's still with them.
They do. I've heard he's a possible candidate to get traded, but he makes
an injury
ton of money.
And I know you know that. It's every other week. It seems like what's going to happen with him. But look, you got a good running game. Let's build up the offensive line, and then let's welcome in a new quarterback either tomorrow with a trade or next year. See what happens.
And you got some good weapons too at wide receiver. So
they do have some nice wide receivers.
Yeah. And Baker Mayfield might be interested in this next pick. He could be a member of this team here. If they take a quarterback, definitely not. But if they take an offensive tackle, don't be surprised if Baker Mayfield is a Carolina Panther by the end of the weekend. Let's just say that. So should be interesting. All right, we're both going with Evan Neal.
You're putting Baker on the Panthers? Is that what you're going to go with?
I think I'm going to say here's what I think. I think the best fit for him is Tampa. I think the team that makes the most sense is Seattle, but I think he's going to land with Carolina.
Okay.
That's a lot of different thoughts, but that's just my thinking. So
no, that's the thing though. There's always those three options when you think about it. It's not black and white. It's not cut and dry. There's varying degrees. There's, like you said, best fit Tampa, not most likely, but maybe something else with Seattle than most likely with Carolina. It's just, there's varying degrees to all of this, and I think that's fair to say, and we'll see what happens with it. But this, as we said, this pick will determine it, I think. I think we'll see.
And the pick is in. So looks like they're on commercial break. When they come back from the commercial, we'll see what happens. So we're both going with Evan Neal. So we have that locked in stone. But Brett, let me just ask you this too. What is and by the way, my next New York Giants pick is thrown out because I have Jermaine Johnson, the defensive end out of Florida State. So, they're not taking two defensive ends, although, hey, crazier things have happened. But where do you think, who do you think the first Buckeye off the board is, Garrett Wilson or Chris Olave? And where do you think that Buckeye goes?
Boy, I don't. The bad thing is I don't know everyone's order of picks.
So here, let me give you the rest of the top 10 here. And so Carolina's picking next at 6, Giants at 7, Atlanta at 8, and full disclosure, I have Garrett Wilson going to Atlanta at 8, Seattle at 9, the Jets at 10. So there's the top 10 there.
Yeah, I think Wilson is going to be it. He's going to be the first one gone. Boy. Like I said, I had thought that Jamison Williams was going to be a possibility there for the Jets. I wasn't sold on it, but I think they're still looking wide receiver though. And
I agree.
The thing about Atlanta is it's intriguing, but they also have the problem of a couple issues with quarterback.
No doubt. Now here,
Wentz.
Yeah.
Yeah.
No, I agree. I think
don't
if
know
Garrett
if that's
Wilson,
where they just go yet. I do think I'm going to say the Jets at 10.
Okay. For Garrett Wilson.
Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah. I do. There's a possibility. You're right that Atlanta does take a wide receiver, though. I'm not going to throw that out, but I don't know if it'll be Garrett Wilson. I think it might be Drake London at that point. They don't have the ability to wait on a wide receiver like Jamison Williams to recover from that ACL injury.
Yeah.
They need someone who they can get into camp and go right away.
I do think Jamison Williams might be ready by the end of the first month of the season, though.
I agree. Like we said, they're moving quicker, which is great. But he's going to miss camp. He's going to miss, preseason. He's going to miss maybe the first month of games. So he has the ability to really miss all of that plus 7 games. And
no doubt.
Some of these teams need things moving a little bit faster. So.
Okay. All right. The pick is in. This is pick number 6. The Carolina Panthers. To me, this is the most interesting pick of the draft, at least thus far. So I think this will domino affect the rest of the draft. We both have Evan Neal. Oh, and it's the other guy.
Wow.
Aquanu.
Your dude was taken.
I had him going 5th, and then Evan Neal going 6th. So one spot off. Pretty, I think that's a pretty solid pick either way. We had an offensive tackle, so technically we nailed the position.
We got the position right.
I think that's a win. We're going to mark that down as a
W.
Pick,
though. Again, we already talked about the intelligence, the smarts. I don't know enough about him, but I do think that North Carolina State's offense was a little bit open this year, more than it has been in previous years. They were more run-oriented and a little bit, standard formation or old school formation. They open it up a lot more this year. And so if he's has the ability for that good pass protection as well and can scooter, he's going to be a really good fit because I know Rule, he wants to get that ball downfield.
Yeah.
So if he has the ability to protect that blind side for the quarterback, he'll be just fine.
Okay. All right. Very good. All right, let's close out here with a few more thoughts. So just to recap, we got Trayvon Walker going 1, Aidan Hutchinson going 2, Derek Stingley going 3, Ahmad Gardner going 4, Thibodeau going 5, and then Aquanu going 6. So we made it through the first 6 picks. I think these quarterbacks are going to fall. I really, really do, because I don't see a whole lot of teams after do the Falcons take a quarterback? I think they take a wide receiver. The Falcons are the only
other questionable one, and I don't.
What about Seattle, though?
I don't think.
What about Seattle?
To be honest with you.
Okay.
I don't think they do. I don't think they pull the trigger. I think when you look at Pete Corral, or Pete Carroll. Why did I say Corral?
Pete Carroll, Matt Corral. I know what you're going with.
Pete Carroll. He wants quarterbacks that big arm can get it down. I don't know though if they're willing to take that risk yet on Malik Willis.
Yeah.
I don't know if they're going to do it. I think they'd rather again wait and see if they can pull something out with a trade. I just don't know if he's going to want it or not.
So I think we can agree the Giants are probably going to take an offensive player here. I don't know who that's going to be. So Giants at 7. Let's just say, I don't know. If they take a quarterback, that'd be a real big curveball. But Atlanta at 8, they have.
If they take Evan Neal, I'm going to count that as a win.
Yeah, I think that's right. I have Atlanta taking Garrett Wilson. So let's just say hypothetically, no quarterback is taken before number 9. So that would mean Atlanta passes, Seattle passes. The Jets aren't taking a quarterback. Washington, I know they brought in Carson Wentz. They're not taking a quarterback, I don't think. Minnesota is not taking a quarterback. I think Houston likes Davis Mills. I don't think they're taking a quarterback.
Davis Mills. I think he was good enough to actually. I think he could do it. I think he could be a really solid quarterback. He may not be top 5, but
yeah, he's going to be like
an
average quarterback. But if you can surround him with pretty good talent, then Baltimore, obviously, not a quarterback. You're not taking a quarterback with Jalen Hurts. Then you have New Orleans. New Orleans needs a quarterback. If you don't like Jameis Winston. So that's an interesting one. And then, I mean, really, you get down to the Pittsburgh pick at number 20. So there's a few picks here that we're going to see what happens, but this will be very interesting. And it's kind of interesting to look at. Like, Brett, you're used to the Bills, at least the last couple years, being good and picking late in the first round. It's weird to not have the Browns picking for me, in the middle or, early in the first round. So the intrigue is not quite there, but I'm almost more interested now because I don't know what the hell is going to happen, and it's kind of cool,
Yeah, I was thinking earlier, to be honest with you, like we'll see what happens. Like, I kind of I don't know if I really care. But then as we started getting, it was like, okay, now I'm intrigued. I want to see kind of how this unfolds a bit more because it's going a way I wasn't really anticipating it going yet.
Right.
It may get back on track, but hey, we'll see who the Giants select here. They're in.
All right. Yeah.
By the way,
we're
say that Carolina. We'll wait till it's pick.
Evan Neal.
I'm calling it a win.
Yeah, you know what? I think that's a win. Because, I'm actually pretty happy with the mock. Not necessarily the exact teams, but we got the players in pretty much the same order for the most part. So
Stingley was the only one that was really out of left field for us, I think.
I was thinking he was going to be between that 8 and 12 range. So this should be all right. You know what? I'll tell you what, we made it this far. Atlanta's on the clock, and this is where I think Garrett Wilson goes. So let's stay on for the Atlanta pick, and then we'll log off after that.
Yeah, but they did say I think that they were looking at Carolina that to kind of see how they went with quarterback, like we were talking about, and they said watch them get back in the talks now with Cleveland with Mayfield. So I think that was a good call on our end about how that might unfold. And I think you're right. I still think Seattle might be the biggest threat to Carolina because I think they have more pieces that they can provide if they really wanted, if there was a bidding war.
Yeah.
But it's going to make some things interesting. The Browns may not be so handcuffed trying to get rid of them.
If the Browns can bring in let's say hypothetically a 3rd round pick for Baker and maybe a conditional pick in the future if he performs well enough, I think that's a win for the Browns. Even if you eat let's say a 1/3 of his salary, so the Browns take on $6 million of that Baker Mayfield salary, and hypothetically the Panthers or Seahawks, take on 12.9, which is kind of a bargain for a starting quarterback in the NFL. Mm-hmm. You see what Aaron Rodgers making 50. You got what's Josh. He's one of the 43
ones. He was
something like that.
Yeah, he had $140 million extension or something like that.
Yeah,
I think
total doesn't kick in until next year.
I think it's from now to that. I think he's 160. I think I have to look at that.
Yeah, that sounds right. I think he's in the 43. Yeah, I think he's in the $43 million season range. Yeah. Which that's what quarterbacks are going to go for. Dak Prescott, Aaron Rodgers, Russell Wilson, guys like that are going to make a crap ton of money, and you got to just factor that in. But it's a double-edged sword because you need a good quarterback to win. And
hey, watch this guy. Oh, you missed it. Maybe you
Evan Neal. No, I saw it. I see it. That was
insane.
Pretty impressive.
That's Evan Neal.
So we got 4 minutes and 30 seconds. We'll take it through this pick.
So
I'm going Garrett
who is the
Wilson.
Falcons quarterback? I mentioned Wentz earlier. I misspoke. I thought you're right. He went to Washington.
It is a former Heisman Trophy winning quarterback that lost to Ohio State in the national championship game. Marcus
Mariota.
Mariota, yes.
Boy, that's
former. I think he was the second pick of the draft probably about 8-9 years ago with the Titans. Tannehill came in, replaced
was he first
him.
Or second? He was one of the.
You know what? I can't recall. I think he was the second overall pick.
Okay, but yeah, Tannehill.
If I'm not mistaken.
Tannehill got traded over to them from Miami.
Yeah. Who Tannehill was the third overall pick, didn't pan out in Miami, kind of had a rejuvenation in Tennessee. I think maybe Baker Mayfield's hoping for the same thing, with his next team. And Carolina makes a hell of a lot of sense to me now, especially after they took the offensive tackle. So the pick is in for Atlanta.
A pass rusher on their board, on their little round table there.
So it could be Jermaine Johnson. So it could be a Jermaine Johnson, could be a Garrett Wilson. I'm going Garrett Wilson just because I freaking love the dude.
You got to stick with it. You got to stick with your pick. I honestly don't know who they're going to go with here. Jermaine Johnson is a good pick, though.
I think Atlanta might have their worst receiving core in the league after having one of the best.
Ridley just fell apart last year.
Well, and he's suspended this entire year.
Yeah.
And, Julio Jones, they got rid of last year. So they went from having one of the best maybe 2-3 years ago to having one of the worst. And so we'll see how that all plans out.
I wasn't thinking about that. You could be right in Wilson. I'm not gonna hedge it and switch. I'm gonna.
And you know what's ironic? We have some degenerate friends who will remain nameless that bet more on the NFL last year than Calvin Ridley did, and he's suspended for the entire season. And
unfortunately, it takes two hands to count those degenerate friends, but yeah.
Yeah. I'm going to give at least one full hand. All right. I'm going Garrett Wilson here. We'll see what happens. Oh, it's Drake London. It is a receiver.
I did say they took a receiver, Drake London. I did say that.
So I had Drake London going 10 and Garrett Wilson going 8. So maybe those two flip-flop. So maybe the Jets
I don't jump necessarily on. I mean, I'm not a huge Drake London fan, though. I think, a lot of it is hype with him, but he's tall. So I think that's what really helps him out.
A former basketball player at USC as well. Those guys have panned out in the past, mostly at the tight end position. But if you can get after it and you're a red zone target, that's an interesting pick.
Most of your cornerbacks are barely 6 foot. And how tall is he? He's 6'5"?
I think he's 6'4", 6'5".
Yeah, I thought he was. I was going to say 6'4", 6'5", but yeah. He's already got a handful of inches on him. I'm sure, the ups are even going to be even better. So, yeah, he's going to be able to at least, like you said, get some red zone, like deep corner routes if need be, stuff like that. That's a really interesting pick. Still, again, not a huge fan of him. I think there's a handful of better receivers in this draft than him, but they needed it. They needed help. So one way or the other, they got who they wanted, and good for them.
Well, this is going to be interesting, the rest of this draft, to see how it plays out. But I think this is playing out pretty well for the Cleveland Browns, probably for your Buffalo Bills too. Hopefully there's a run on quarterbacks in the teens into the 20s, because I want some of those receivers to fall into the 30s and the 40s. But we'll see. I think Drake London coming off the board here at 8. I think possibly Wilson is next up. But Jamison Williams, people love. I
think Jamison Williams and Wilson are they can go either way. The next receiver. It just depends on where, what team has ability to take a wide receiver that can sit for a little bit.
No doubt.
Team like Seattle might have that ability if they so choose. Although I don't think Seattle does that. I think Seattle might lean more towards, say, like Kyle Hamilton.
Yeah,
I think they're going to lean a little bit more defensive nature there.
If you want to know who I have the Seahawks picking, you just took them right there. Kyle Hamilton, number 9.
At least we're on that wavelength. We've had very few of those today.
And Kyle Hamilton last year at Notre Dame, before he got hurt, was one of the studs of college football.
It was
just making plays.
When you think about like early in this process, he was considered maybe the best player in this draft by a lot of the pundits, and now he's like falling to the double digits, and which is
the problem with
it's goofy, but
is safety is a needed position, but it's not a coveted position by NFL GMs. You know, you're looking at the 4 main positions: quarterback, cornerback, defensive end, offensive tackle. Those are your basic 4. And then I think wide receiver is quickly climbing up there to number 5.
Yeah, I don't think safety's that far off from wide receiver, though, to be honest with you. And it more or less because they are the leader of that. I know that linebackers typically call the play, stuff like that. But the safeties see everything. And when you have 2 good safeties who can cover for you and be out there, stop run cover, you're in a really good spot. You know, I'm lucky the Bills have 2 great ones. So you need the cornerbacks, though, because it showed against the Chiefs. Without the cornerbacks, you're in a little bit of trouble. But if you have 2 safeties as well, though, that really takes a load off of them if need be.
No doubt.
But yeah, I would say, wide receiver first, right, like you said, but I don't think the safeties are that far off.
Agreed. Okay. All right, Brett. Well, it's been fun. We made it through 1 extra pick than I thought. So or actually 2 extra picks, because we're already on number 9 now. So so we both have Kyle Hamilton, right?
Yeah.
Going next.
Yeah.
Going next to the Seahawks. We'll see. Hopefully that comes to fruition.
Before we go to the 3rd quarterback, I was Matt Corral, the Lions at 32. That's who I would keep an eye on if he's still available. Matt Corral at 32.
All right. So just one more time, so it's on record. I have Matt Corral going 19 to the Saints. I have Malik Willis going 20 to the Steelers, and I have Kenny Pickett going 32 to the Lions.
Because
he's got those little baby
lines,
hands.
Though. We're mixing quarterbacks, but I'm with you. Saints, Steelers, Lions are likely the quarterbacks places.
No doubt. Well, it'll be fun. We'll see where Baker Mayfield ends up. We'll see who the Bills take at 25, and we'll see what happens. But, Brett, if Olave falls, man, you just hit the home run of the draft. If you don't get Olave and you guys somehow take a linebacker, oh man, get Nakobe Dean. That's my player of the draft here. So, Brett, thank you for joining us.
Appreciate it.
And we'll see what happens.
Yep.
Pick is in for Seattle. Maybe it's Kyle Hamilton. So, Brett, take care. We'll talk to you soon.
Yep. Later.